and I'm happy to be here today at the THESIS symposium, where we can discuss a bit about mental health and how to improve it in academia. And I only provided a short input on doctoral supervision and the power imbalance we observed there. Stephanie already mentioned this as a key factor on mental health, and I will end this short input with some ideas how we could improve there. So first, I have some data. Hopefully you can see this. It's from the Max Planck PhDNet survey from 2019, published in 2020. And here you can show on the y-axis, so to say, the proportions of depression groups, so to say. So participants who reported no to minimal depression, this is the dark blue part, and then it goes up to severe depression, which is the 3% which is below the gray bar. And on the x-axis you can see an decreasing satisfactions. So overall this provides the picture that with decreasing supervision satisfaction, also the proportions of participants that report moderate to severe depression increases. And this is of course a huge issue, because supervision is something that we provide as research organizations and that we can improve. So here you can now see that also supervision is a key factor, as Stephanie was showing, because what is plotted here is the correlation of different measures that were taken in this survey with depression and anxiety. And as you can see, so the ones that are upper or more to the right show a higher correlation coefficient, and supervision is just below workload. Yeah, and as you know, we all have to deal with a high workload, but supervision seems to be then one of the key factors just below this. This is what I wanted to show here. So why is this the case? Yeah, so one reason is, in particular in Germany, there are many power dependencies relating to supervisions, and I would say they are at least threefold. So the supervisor is not only the one that supervises you regarding research, but also the person who pays you and at the end will grade you. So you depend on this person when your manuscript is submitted for publication, when this person will also say when your thesis is really done, or when your contract ends or not, so it has the power to prolong it or not. And also, this is often very forgotten about when you are doing the PhD phase, that you also depend on this person for your next job, yeah? Whether this person recommends you, in particular in academia, but also if you want to move out of academia, you might provide references in your CV, and the person will be called, etc. So furthermore, as I have showed, there are many dependencies and you're very depending on your supervisor, but actually, as you might have experienced, there's no evaluation of supervision. So no implemented procedure for this. And usually you just get supervisor by stepping up the academic career ladder. But there was actually never a training for a test, yeah? So I mean, you get your PhD for publishing papers, but not for supervising master's students properly, so to say. And today we provide here the international perspective. These dependencies vary internationally. So we will come back to this later, because I would say some countries already progressed in this regard and were able to split up some of these dependencies. For instance, the supervisors do not grade the thesis, or they don't pay their PhD candidates. Yeah. So, and then I wanted to come to another point. So researcher mental health is at risk, but it even increases over the PhD phase. So what you can see here is, so on the x-axis, you have the time spent on the PhD. So the first column is 1 year, second column is second year, and then equals 3 or more years. And the anxiety, in particular high anxiety, is increasing. So more than half of the participants reported that high anxiety. And I would argue this is due to many uncertainties that the PhD candidates are facing during their doctoral phase. First of all, this is a multi-year project, and the people never did something like this before. And so naturally, you will always underestimate the time scope. And it's also for yourself, this again relates back to these dependencies, hard to say when it's good enough. Yeah, when is this manuscript done to be submitted? Will it be successful at the journal? Is this now like a proper thesis? How you know? Yeah, then data acquisition can fail, and there can be also a pandemic. Yeah, which doesn't allow you to acquire data. In particular, for instance, if you work with human participants, you can't invite them to the institute, etc. Then null results are hard to publish, and so as you know, yeah, I mean, null results are maybe more likely than finding effect, yeah, and so this is a high uncertainty, and you have this unpredictable publication process, and I don't have data for this. It's more private empiricism, but my impression is that throughout academia we're moving towards publication-based dissertations. And now the question is, are all dissertations able to be published in a certain time frame? If this is a requirement for a thesis. Yeah, and I guess this is also one of the drivers for the increasing anxiety over the PhD. There's an unclear career perspective beyond the PhD. Yeah? We do not offer a good deal for PhD candidates after this. Yeah? So now is the question, what can we do? How can we balance this maybe? Yeah. So first of all, what I would argue for, and what also the doctoral researcher networks always do, is we have to break up these dependencies. Yeah? So the first way out, in particular for Germany, would be to separate supervision and employment. Yeah? Some people are suggesting there even like a structural change in university or research institution towards a department structure, where then the PhD candidates would be employed at the department and they would choose their supervisors. Yeah? Furthermore, this is also something maybe particular to Germany, that the assessment of thesis is often implemented already to be independent of researchers internationally, but not so in Germany. And in Germany, we additionally have the grading. And once with a colleague, I wrote an opinion paper on this, why grading should be abolished. And this is an easy way, I would say, or an easy reform we could implement. And furthermore, I argue strongly for supervision training, and then also an agreement with the supervisor early in the PhD phase, where you write down what each of you expect. And so you have not then later in your PhD phase the discussion whether there should be another paper or not. Yeah? And to, so to say, maybe decrease anxiety towards the end or over the PhD phase, there should be a tenure track program just right after the PhD. Yeah? So I think so in academia we have to change our personal model towards one where there is the rule of permanent employment after the PhD. And of course, there's not yet the majority in society, I would say, that people are directly employed permanently after their PhD. So that's why we need kind of a transition phase. Yeah, and for now we call this tenure track. Yeah. And as I already mentioned, so there are internationally variations regarding supervision dependencies and also uncertainties. And it would be in particular from the perspective of the ReMO cost action, very interesting to have more data on this, to also compare countries regarding their power imbalances and uncertainties, and then we can also compare if they perform better or not. Yeah, so this was my input so far. Looking forward to the discussion with you, and